Do you sometimes feel lonely? I remember about 20 years ago when I was very sick with schizophrenia, I felt lonely all the time. My social skills were not very well developed. I didn't feel competent to make new friends. And thus, I spent most of my time alone, playing video games or talking to my psychiatrist, is the main person I would talk to week by week. And what changed for me after I spent about a year doing that in my recovery was I found a book actually called The General Theory of Love, written by Thomas Lewis, Richard Landon, and Fari Amini at the UCSF bookstore, which is where I was seeing my psychiatrist at UCSF. And I read the book. It was fascinating, and it clued me into how important, both how important and why it's important that people have meaningful relationships in their lives from a brain perspective and from an emotional perspective. So I became very interested in learning about how to meet more people and do it in a way that was successful and make friendships again. And so fortunately, it changed my medication, and another treatment that I tried helped me to be able to have better social abilities. And so that and the interest combined got me back out into the world again, meeting people. Soon I was a social butterfly, actually. And very soon thereafter, I met my wife, the woman who's now my wife. And we've been happily married for a dozen years. But there are still times when I wish I had cultivated more friendships and been able to do it better. So we're very fortunate to have today on our show a topic of cultivating better relationships. I'm Brandon Staglin, and this is One Mind Brainwaves. And thank you so much for being with us today to watch and participate. I hope you will ask questions of our guest today. For over a year, we've been talking about ways to stay vitally connected virtually while we are physically distanced during the pandemic. Now, as we emerge from our cocoons, what do our relationships look like, and what do we want them to look like? Many experts say this is the ideal time to kind of reboot and reset our relationships as we have them today for potentially a better life for ourselves. Maybe we'll come out with fewer friendships, but deeper friendships. Today, we'll hear from a renowned speaker and author about ways to make better connections for a more meaningfully connected life. And stick around, because later in the program, our team at One Mind Cyber Guide will tell us a review of a new app intended to help you mend a broken heart, should you ever need that. But first, an acclaimed singer-songwriter who sings and writes about relationships in all their messy glory. Her latest work is called Vultures, but she's going to perform a work for us today from her album of 2020 called 30s. And she's also written a book by the same name, so she's going to stick around for the conversation and tell us more about that work as well. Jill Andrews, welcome to Brainwaves.
Thank you, Brandon. Really, really happy to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
For sure. It's so great to have you on, Jill. Thank you. In your work, you're exploring a decade of life's ups and downs and transitions galore in your album 30s. What brought about that album for you?
Relationships that I was in, mostly romantic relationships. During my 30s, I was already a mother. I had my first child when I was 29. And so I was, I had a little baby at the beginning of my 30s. And I was in a relationship that was just very, very tenuous, very rocky, and, trying to navigate motherhood is tricky in all the best types of relationships, and very hard in relationships that aren't working out so well. So a lot of the songs are just, depressing maybe during that period of my life where I was just trying to figure it out. And I felt alone and I felt lonely. That's mostly what it's about, and finding my way out of that as well.
Wow. And did writing the album and now performing the album, has it given you a sense or a way to kind of, through articulating it, to process those experiences and maybe understand their meaning more and connect with others about them to share with them?
Absolutely. Yeah, especially through writing the book. So what I did was I wrote an album and it has 13 songs on it. And then when I was almost done recording the album, I decided to write a book that it's a companion book, and there's a story that goes with every song on the album. So there's 13 stories, and they're all very personal. And I've never written a book before, so I'm a new author, but I am not new to writing. I've kind of always written as a young girl, and have always really enjoyed it. But it was the best form of therapy for me to just go back and remember how it all was, and look back from where I was sitting at that point, which was in a much better place. And just to process through those feelings and hopefully give other people a sense of hope if they find themselves in that place.
Yeah, that's
Or
wonderful.
similar. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. And I know that your work resonates with so many people. You have many fans out there. Would love to hear your song,
Yes.
Wherever I End Up.
Yes.
It's a beautiful song, and I think that our viewers is going to love it too.
Cool. Yeah, this one is from 30s. It's called Wherever I End Up. I follow dreams down every kind of road. Sometimes they lead somewhere, sometimes they don't. I'll keep on moving forward, 'cause there is no turning back to the past. Wherever I end up, wherever the wind takes me, wherever the sky opens up, shining a light on me. Every dawn follows a night. I know I'll be alright wherever I end up. I put my hope in broken, empty things. I lost my faith before I cut the strings. I walk a crooked mile, go half a world away, however long it takes. Wherever I end up, wherever the wind takes me, wherever the sky opens up, shining a light on me. Every dawn follows a night. I know I'll be alright wherever I end up, end up, end up, end up, end up, end up. I'll make it if I have to walk forever. I know I'll find the place I'm meant to be. Wherever I end up, wherever the wind takes me, wherever the sky opens up, shining a light on me. Every dawn follows a night. I know I'll be alright wherever I end up, end up, end up, end up, end up, end
Oh, wow. Jill, thank you for that song. I
You're
took my
welcome.
breath away. And And I feel like I really connected with you as the character in that song. I really, cared a lot about the future of that person, and so because it resonated with me, and I felt deeply for that song. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely. So beautiful song. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
All right. So Jill, thank you so much. And what a hopeful note to begin our conversation. Essentially, wherever you go, there you are. And I think I like that philosophy. And I think that your song conveys that very well. Um, Joining us now is Kat Vellos, speaker and author of We Should Get Together, The Secret to Cultivating Better Friendships. Kat, thank you so much for being with us here on Brainwaves today.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Brandon. And I have to echo everything you said. Jill, your music was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Kat. I'm excited to hear your story.
All right, me too. Me too. So Kat, let's start with your questions. Actually, before we do, I want to just say to the viewers, we're very lucky to have these two wonderful guests with us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to post those in the comment section of this webcast at any time. So I'd love to hear from you as well. Thank you. All right, Kat.
Yeah.
Your first book was called We Should Get Together. And in the spring of 2020, you released an addendum called Connected from Afar. And that's exactly what we've all been for the past year, connected from afar. In your talks, you also speak a lot about new beginnings. What if people are feeling a little bit of anxiety about what we call reentry, but coming back into face-to-face, person-to-person relationships? How do you advise people about how to fully make the transition from connected from afar to more fulfilling relationships face-to-face?
Great question. Super timely question, Brandon. And I want to start by saying it is completely normal to feel uneasy about this transition because we have had our whole lives and across the whole planet, really disrupted in a way that we've never experienced before. And it's a really big change we've just gone through. And it's another really big change we're about to go through. So if you have nervousness about that or you feel out of practice, congratulations. That is exactly what is to be expected when dealing with a really huge transition. And as one of my mentors once taught me, feeling nervous is just a sign that something matters to you. I talk about this sometimes people ask me like, oh, do you feel nervous to have a certain conversation or to speak? And it's like, if it really matters to me, sometimes I feel nervous because you care about the outcome of it. Your heart usually doesn't get racing about things that you're apathetic about. So if you feel nervous, great. That just means this really matters to you. And it's good that that matters. So when it comes to going back to face-to-face interaction and transitioning to that, the first thing I usually tell people is to hit the pause button and look inside and listen to what their heart is saying that they need right now. Not other people's expectations, not what other people are doing, but to really understand what do you need right now? What kind of transition process is going to feel healthy and safe and supportive for you? Because we're all different. And it is absolutely okay if you want to go very slow. It is okay if you want to make this an incremental process. So maybe you see one person a week, and then after that, you see two people a week. And then after that, you step it up according to what you feel comfortable with. But the most important thing is to really prioritize interactions that feel fulfilling to you, and say no to things that feel empty or unsatisfying because they're just going to drain your energy. And is it really worth it? So really focus on what kind of connection feels good to you. What are the relationships you want to prioritize? And if you're honoring your own needs, that's going to make sure that you don't feel FOMO when things get back in full swing because you'll know you're being true to yourself.
I love that perspective. It's like being true to yourself. Exactly what you say is key to making authentic connections in the first place, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And Jill, in all the many varieties, relationships serve as an inspiration for your music. And music itself can be a very meaningful source of connection. How have your relationships changed or been transformed by the pandemic?
My relationships. Let's see. Well, I've been just at home with my family mostly. And my family is my husband and our two kids. So we've just been, sticking to ourselves mostly. We're definitely venturing out now a lot more, but I was thinking today, our daughter is almost 5, and she's like the biggest extrovert I've ever met. And I just feel so badly for her because I am her playmate. Our son is almost 12, and there's just such a big age gap. And so she just wants to jump on the trampoline all day long, and she wants me to jump on the trampoline all day long. And I just can't, I just can't. And I don't know. So it's just trying to figure out, part of it is the pandemic, and part of it is just, I don't know, we need to like find more friends for her. It's hard to find friends when she's not in school yet. And so, but yeah, I haven't hung out with a lot of people, and I miss people very badly. And I am kind of using your advice, I think, just kind of incrementally getting back in. That feels good to me. It's like my birthday is on Sunday, and I have been trying to figure out what to do for my birthday. And it feels scary to me to try to have a big thing. And so I am going out to eat with one friend. And so I'm following your advice, Kat.
Awesome. And happy early birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Yeah. Happy early birthday. I like that you are choosing to do this slowly and at a pace that feels good to you.
Yeah.
When my wife and I got married, we did a wedding with like 4 people, me, her, and two witnesses, one who was the officiant, a good friend of ours. And we just wanted to be married. It didn't matter to us, and we didn't want to have a big to-do, right? And so we did what felt right to us. Mm-hmm. And later we did have a bigger party that my parents threw for us, and we indulged them in that, and that was fun. But I get it, and I respect that a lot. Yeah. And also, Jill, how has these changes in your relationships, spending more time with your family, and how does that affect your relationship with your fans, being separated from your fans? Have you been able to keep those relationships going in some way, or?
I have done some touring because I did kind of a very specific type of touring, which was all outdoor shows. I have an RV, and my family and I traveled in an RV, and we played just outdoor shows in people's backyards, and masks. I required masks everywhere, and there was social distancing. And so they were very small shows, like about 25, probably, mostly. And so I've done some of those shows just to kind of keep at it. And that has been really, really awesome. I also started a Patreon campaign, which I know many artists have done. And that has been really awesome. It's if you don't know about Patreon, it's a way of connecting with your fans. It's over the web. It's like a whole system where, I do specific things for them. Like I'll play a live stream show just for them. Just kind of have a social networking that is just between me and them. And they get special things. So it's a cool way of me staying creative and doing what I always do, and just like sharing it with, that community.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure the people you share with in such a focused way really appreciate the connection that you're making with them that way.
Yes, I think it's been very, very cool for me. Because it's been a way for me to keep supporting myself and keep being creative and working on my music. And I think it's been helpful for them to have that connection, and to feel like they're doing something for me, which is awesome.
Great. It's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
And Kat, whether artists do it through songs or through literature or through painting or film, mm-hmm. the art they create expresses their hopes and their dreams and their values. And I believe this is what it's all about. This is how we make meaningful connections, by sharing these things with each other, as Joe was talking about. And it's the opposite of small talk, which I believe you talked about, can lead to a lot more loneliness.
Yeah.
So how do deeper relationships affect our mental well-being? And how can the average person initiate the kind of conversations that can lead to those deep relationships?
Mhm. So it's really important to not overlook the importance of these emotionally fulfilling friendships and relationships in our lives, because they're so beneficial for your physical, mental, emotional health across the board. They're just all positive. People with strong friendships report not just feeling better happiness, which is, kind of to be expected. If you have good friendships, you're probably going to be happier. But you also report less stress, less anxiety, less depression, stronger feelings of confidence and self-worth and belonging, and also finding more meaning and purpose in life, can come from those relationships that are really strong and healthy. And on a physical level, and especially during a pandemic, we think about how to stay healthy physically. Having strong friendships is proven to improve your immunity. It can also increase your pain tolerance and lower inflammation in the body, which, as we know, inflammation is tied to a whole host of other negative health outcomes. And so having strong friendships, it feels good in your heart. It also reduces your chance of heart disease. So all of these things add up to helping you live longer, healthier lives. And so that is why it's really important to make it a priority. As we know, not having enough friendship or social support in someone's life will lead to loneliness, but also this cascade of additional negative health outcomes, as I talked about. So when it comes to thinking about how the average person can initiate conversations that do move beyond small talk and do lead to authentic, open-hearted sharing, this is something I talk about a lot. And it really just takes a little bit of courage and a little bit of vulnerability and the willingness to try something new or to make an invitation that the other person really wants to say yes to, really wants to step forward to you in. So for example, if you and I were friends, Brandon, I might say, hey, Brandon, I've been thinking a lot about the topic of connection, let's say, and I want to know if you'd be up for talking about it the next time we're on the phone, or if we meet up to go for a socially distant walk. And when you invite someone to a conversation and you give a clue as to what you've been thinking about, it matters to you, and they have some time to kind of mull it over before you chat too, most people are going to say yes to that. I did this with a friend last year because I really wanted to talk to her about our experiences in nature. We've been friends for years, but I've never really asked her about that. And we shared some really beautiful memories and stories with each other about experiences that we've had in nature. So another thing that you can do if you want to be really intentional about sharing certain kinds of conversation starters, I'm really big on having more intentional conversation starters if you're on my Instagram at all. So I have a lot of questions that are good to prompt a deeper conversation. And what you can do is say to a friend, hey, do you want to play a game with me? Because I realize there's a lot of things that I don't know about you and that I've never told you about me. And it's a conversation game. Here's a link. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And we just take turns asking each other questions that stick out to us. Mm-hmm. And that it might feel a little bit unusual if you've never tried something like that. And that's because new things feel unusual. But once you get into it, you kind of forget because you fall into the moment, you fall into the conversation. And that's when you're feeling that connection. It doesn't matter, how it got started. The point is to get to that connection. And it does take a little effort to open the door and invite that in.
Wow. It's great to know that
cool.
there's those prompts that people can kind of use to start their thinking and their interactions with each other in a way that can really lead to deeper, more meaningful conversations. There used to be a game. Used to be a game, a board game back in the 1980s called the Ungame, which had that exact purpose. It had lots of questions about, what do you most fear? Or, what is the greatest thing you'd ever like to do in your life? Things like that. And I remember playing that, and it seemed to work. And so I think you're definitely onto something major there.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch, 300 plus prompts are in the back of We Should Get Together, the book. They're all in the back with the book club guide. And also betterthansmalltalk.com is the other place where I have just tons of options that you can dig into on different subjects. You can talk about relationships or education or society or identity. There's so many different categories you can explore to get deeper and learn more about each other.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And everyone, please go to Kat's Instagram feed and website and check those things out.
That is really awesome, Kat. My husband and I have been we're both huge quality time people. And so we've been reading a book, and there's a lot of prompts in there as well. And it's like a marriage book. And it's been it's so interesting, to sit with someone that you've known for years and ask them really deep questions that it just makes you feel closer. And it's like, how did I not know that? How did I not ever ask you that? And it's really, really cool and special. And just really, I've really felt it bringing us closer.
I love you sharing that story. Thanks so much, Jill. And I'm happy to hear that that book and that experience is happening or delivering that connection in your relationship.
Yeah, I'm excited to check out your book and read those prompts. That's such a good idea.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Having those new connections forming within a relationship that's already been, going for so long. That's beautiful to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And Jill, you've been compared to Lucinda Williams and Brandi Carlile in the way that you share your innermost feelings and struggles, the way when you sing and songwrite, you bare your soul. Have you always felt comfortable as an artist sharing so deeply and so personally with your fans? And how does it affect your relationship with your fans?
Yes, I have, and I don't exactly know why. I mean, I guess part of it is my personality. In some ways, I'm kind of an open book, especially, I kind of have noticed this about myself when I'm co-writing with someone else. It kind of turns into more of a therapy session pretty immediately because I just always take it there. When the conversation comes up about, well, what do you want to write about? It's just like, well, here's what's been going on in my life, and for a while there, what was going on in my life was, very, very personal and not always pretty, I guess. Now it's more just like, I don't know, been in my pajamas for a year. So, yeah. And so, yeah, I definitely have always written songs like that, that are kind of like journal entries to guitar chords. I think that it's affected my fans. I think from what I hear, people kind of draw from their own lives. They hear my music and kind of what you were saying, Brandon, like, oh, I can relate to that, which is like, as far as a songwriter is concerned, that is like the best thing that you can do is to have someone say, I relate to that, because that really is what I feel like my job is. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can make those connections and people can identify with what you're saying. Yeah. I'm glad you can do that. Mm-hmm. It seems to work.
Can I add on too?
Yes.
Can I say, Jill, that it is such a gift that you and songwriters do in helping people express the things that may also be hard for them to put into their own words. I feel like that when I hear beautiful music like yours, it's like I relate to it, and wow, it helps me in this like cathartic way to process my own feelings too.
That is awesome. That is really, really cool.
And you talk about, Jill, music being therapeutic for you, but it's therapeutic for others in the same way. I think that's what the whole discipline of music therapy is about. Like relating to something that a songwriter or singer will perform, and then saying, well, this means this to me, and then that they can express, what they're going through as a result. So your work is so important.
It's also fun, as a songwriter and as a music listener and lover, to listen to other people's songs and not know what it's about really, but just glom on to whatever, it is for me, and just say, okay, I think that it's about, their dog running away or whatever. And it has, in all reality, it's probably not about that at all, but it just, it becomes something for the listener in its own different way. And that's it's very, very cool. And I agree. It's healing,
Yeah. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, they say, right?
Yeah.
The experience is very special to those who experience it. So we're talking today about cultivating better relationships with Jill Andrews, a singer, songwriter, and author, as well as Kat Vellos, speaker and author of We Should Get Together, The Secret to Cultivating Better Friendships. Viewers, don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have anything you want to share, your thoughts, your questions, please put that in the chat feature of this webcast. If this webcast is interesting you and you feel it could benefit someone else, please share this webcast with them, invite them to follow it. We want to share this great information that our guests are sharing with as many people as we can. Thanks for being with us. So back to you, Kat. Interesting that you say you're actually an introvert. How did you first become interested in human connection, and what has inspired you to devote your life to helping others form better, deeper social connections?
Yeah. So I usually have to start off explaining the introvert thing, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about introverts. So being introverted, doesn't mean that I'm shy, because I'm not shy. Doesn't mean that I'm antisocial. Doesn't mean that I don't like talking or I don't like people. Introverts are just different than extroverts in that it comes with like where we get our energy from. So being social will drain our energy, and then we got to recharge in solitude, take lots of solitude, and can feel very comfortable in solitude for a long time. Extroverts are the opposite, being social, being in big groups, all of that's going to like fill them up with energy, fill up the gas tank. And for introverts, opposite. So because I lose energy from social interactions, that means that I want them to be really, really good, because I'm going to be drained afterwards anyway, whether I spend it on small talk or whether I'm having a really beautiful heart to heart. So because of that, I want it to be really nutritious. I want to get a lot of vitamins out of my social interactions. And that's partially why I care a whole lot about having good conversations and having really meaningful connection. So it's about an energy exchange, So with that, I want everybody else, introverts, extroverts, ambiverts, everybody in between, to feel connected and fulfilling and belonging and all of the good things that come when you have a really healthy social support system. So in terms of how I came to care about this topic, I had to look back on my life, and as a kid, I moved around quite a bit. And where each place I moved to, I didn't quite belong. The kids were like, oh, you're from someplace else. And it wasn't until I was a teenager and a young adult that I finally got to experience like having a best friend and like feeling really connected to a group of friends. And it was really life-changing. And that experience of belonging and connection and community is something that I've held on to, and that has honestly helped me get through a lot of hard times in my life. And so ever since then, since again, those like early adulthood years to now, I've been in the practice of facilitating and creating different types of communities where people can come together, share who they really are, connect on a meaningful level. And writing the book, We Should Get Together, is really taking that to another level. I spent 5 years researching and writing this book because I'm dedicated to giving people the tools to cultivate the belonging that they need. I want this so that we can reduce the loneliness epidemic. I want this so that ultimately we can reduce human suffering, because that's what comes out of isolation and loneliness. Ultimately, what I want out of all of this is I hope that it inspires more people to take action in their own lives, because when you create connection in your life, you're also creating connection for the other people that you're sharing that with. I believe that healthy, thriving people make healthy, thriving communities that can help make a healthy, thriving world. And so that's why I do this.
What a beautiful vision coming from within you as an introvert. You're sharing this wonderful work with the world. And I hope that this conversation is nourishing for you as well as it is for me.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, we'll have to fill up your tank somehow, but hope you're enjoying this too. I am.
Conversations like this are things that do fill up the tank.
Excellent. Good. Jill, you've released a companion book to your album 30s, a collection of beautiful photos and intimately personal essays called 30s, the album in portrait and prose. It's about love and loss. Why did you want to share this very personal story about this particular decade? And we did talk a little bit about that earlier, but is there anything else you wanted to share about that?
I think it was kind of a closing of a chapter for me. Right after I released it, I turned 40. So now I'm working on I'm not really working on my 40s book yet, but maybe I will at some point. I'm working on my story either way. I think, part of it was, I think for women, especially in the music industry, we don't really talk about our ages very much. So that was part of it. It's like, I wanted to just put it out there and say, this is my 30s, this isn't my 20s, because that's gone. That's long gone, this is my 30s. And a lot of really important transitional things happened to me. And I became a much better songwriter in my 30s than I ever was in my 20s because of all of those life experiences and, becoming a mom and multitasking and figuring out every day how do I have a career? How do I support my family? How do I, raise this child and traumatize them as little as possible during the raising? All of these things. And so I felt like my stories, even though they were, commonplace stories, I guess, I felt like they were important to tell.
For sure. It sounds like you grew a lot during that decade of your 30s, and sharing how you did that, maybe you're a role model for other people to know they could do a similar growth.
Yeah. And I did feel like it was important to say, on my birthday, when I turned 40, I did a live stream like birthday party for myself. And I had 2 big balloons behind me, 40. And I just wanted people to know, like, I'm happy about that. I'm proud of that. And I want it to be okay for other women to say, this is how old I am. And it's like part of life, and let's respect it.
Yeah, I love that. Graceful maturity. Yeah, that's fantastic, and continuing to grow throughout. Kat, as people make the transition to their work lives as well, moving from working at home to working in office situations, or if you're a musician back out on the road touring, they might also be experiencing some social anxiety. Yeah. How can companies help employees with this adjustment? And how can people feel comfortable with being back in relationships with their colleagues again, face to face?
Good question, timely question. And one thing that this whole situation is highlighting is that companies, especially, really cannot overlook making sure that their employees feel cared about and supported. Research already backs the fact that employees who feel a higher sense of belonging at work tend to stick around longer, and they do higher quality work, which is really good for the company. So even more so now, employees really need that extra care. In the summer of 2020, 60% of working professionals reported that they were already feeling symptoms of burnout. And that was a year ago. Wow. So even though we're at this transition time where it's like, oh, this is like maybe going to be over soon, that doesn't mean that people's feelings of burnout have lessened. In a year later, it may even have increased. And so it's really important for companies to acknowledge that employees are going to feel very differently about what this transition means. Some people are chomping at the bit. They're like ready to go. And other people are like, leave me in quarantine forever. And we've just gone through a really, really big, challenging, scary time. And some people might feel like they literally need a break to delineate that time and what comes after. Or they might need a vacation because they've been in their house every single day for 14 months. So really important for managers and for companies to acknowledge the fact that people have different needs. They're going to have different comfort levels. And they need to be, companies need to be creative and imaginative in how they apply their welcome back strategy to take care of those differing needs. So one example that I'm thinking of, back pre-COVID, I had gone to a conference that had a really unique strategy for acknowledging the fact that in a conference setting, people feel differently about being approached and starting up a conversation. So on the lanyards, they let you put in a card, like a red, yellow, or green card, to indicate how open you are to being approached spontaneously. And it's really nice because it was just a very small visual cue in a room to be like, okay, that person wants to be left alone. That person's probably feeling chatty. It's okay to walk over to them. And I think in a similar way, like companies need to be creative and imaginative about making sure that employees maybe have an efficient way to communicate their needs to everybody else. And also encourage people to be proactive in thinking about how can you communicate your feelings? How can you communicate your needs and your boundaries and your appreciation to the people that you work with? So if you and I work together, Brandon, if we used to be in the office, sit next to each other, and the office is like, okay, you guys are coming back halftime, I might be like, hey, Brandon, I really like working with you. I'm glad you're still here. I'm not ready for a lot of face-to-face time. So don't feel bad if I'm like not super chatty right off the go, or I might say like, let's scaffold it up in like small baby steps. Let's take it slow. And then that way, if I'm standoffish, it's not because I don't like you. It's because it's about my comfort level.
Yeah, that kind of communication is just key to keeping relationships strong. And you clearly thought a lot about this. I really value your ideas. Thank
boundaries
you.
are so boundaries are so important. Period.
Yes,
that's definitely something that I have learned a lot as I've grown. So that is really good advice, Kat.
Thanks, Jill.
Fantastic. And Jill, you've toured with your friends, the Avett Brothers and others, but your work has also been featured on such shows as Grey's Anatomy and Nashville. What's next for you?
Well, right now I'm writing songs and working on another. I think it's going to be an EP, just a short version of an album. So yeah, I'm just working on that. And what else am I doing? Still working, doing the Patreon community thing, which has been really, really fun. And been homeschooling this whole year. So now it's summer. So I don't know, probably continue to do a little bit of that, still catching up. Yeah, that's what I've been working on is, I haven't really written with many people, during the pandemic. So I've been working on writing songs here. This is my studio. You can see a little bit of it, working here in my studio, and I've been learning how to, do my own recordings, and I'm getting much better at it. It's not totally perfect yet, but I think I'm getting a good foundation for songs here, and then I'm going to take them to a friend's studio and have somebody put drums on them and maybe put some keys and things like that. So yeah, so that's what I've been working on. It's really fun.
Awesome. You keep on learning to do what you do even better, and you have friends to help you, in ways that you can benefit from their strengths as well.
Yes, I have a lot of really talented friends. I'm really happy about that.
That's wonderful. So finally, we come to the lightning round, the fun part of the show. It's all been fun, but hopefully this will be the most fun part of the show. So this is going to be 5 rapid fire questions for each of you. Quick answers, please, so that all of your answers together take up 30 seconds in total. So add them all up, and that'll be 30 seconds. So real fast. We'll start with Kat, and then circle around back for Jill's answers. Are you ready, Kat?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. What helps you cope when you're going through a tough time mentally?
Going in nature.
Yeah, absolutely. What song or type of music do you turn to when you're feeling down?
Some sad songs.
Oh, yeah. What do you value most in a close friend?
Really open, honest communication.
Mm-hmm. What has the pandemic taught you about yourself and your relationships?
To hold them close and appreciate every moment as much as possible.
Fantastic. And then finally, what gives you hope?
Seeing young people step forward to create a better world.
Absolutely. Very inspiring. And Jill, we'll circle around for your answers to the other questions now. Thanks for joining that one there. What helps you cope when you're going through a tough time mentally, Jill?
I also love going into nature. It's one of my favorite. Hiking. I love hiking.
Absolutely.
Fast answers.
What song or type of music do you listen to when you're feeling down?
I would say Portishead, anything really sad and emotion, like emo.
I love Portishead too, Kat.
Wonderful. And what, Jill, what do you value most in a close friend?
Openness, vulnerability, and a good listener.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And Jill, what gives you hope?
Intelligent, open conversations.
Okay, we definitely need more of those. And this has definitely been one of those. So yes. I am inspired by this conversation. Thanks so much to you both for being with us today on One Mind Brainwaves. I've learned so much.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
Kat, where are you from? Where do you live?
I'm in the Bay Area. What about you?
I was hoping you were in Nashville and we could get together.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I wonder where she is. I wonder if she's in Nashville.
Yeah, I'm in Nashville. So we're really far away from each other, but it's been awesome talking.
We'll be internet friends.
Maybe you can connect, at least do another webcast together or something in the near term. But before we end the webcast, I'm going to say, we're going to show you show our audience now an app. So check out this review from our One Mind Cyber Guide team about an app that just might help you mend a broken heart. Take it away, One Mind Cyber Guide team.
Hi, my name is Steven Schuler, and I'm the Executive Director of One Mind Cyber Guide. You probably already use your phone for many things throughout the day, but did you know that there are also apps to help you manage your mental health and well-being? There are literally thousands of mental health apps available for download today, and with so many choices to choose from, it can be hard to separate the good from the bad. That's where One Mind Cyber Guide can help. At One Mind Cyber Guide, we review apps on 3 different metrics: credibility, user experience, and transparency. We've reviewed over 200 products, and all of these reviews are available for free on our app guide at onemindcyberguide.org. If you're interested in using a mental health app and you already see a therapist, try working with them to find an app to integrate into your treatment. They may have their own recommendations for apps or may suggest ways to use an app to add on to the work you're doing in therapy. In the age of technology, it's still as important as ever to build connections and a community of support for mental health. Why not use apps as a starting point for conversations around mental health, just as you might suggest a helpful app to a friend who needs help with their time management, fitness tracking, or navigation? The more we normalize these conversations, the better chance we have of decreasing mental health stigma.
Mend is an app designed primarily for individuals who are experiencing a challenging time due to ending a relationship with a significant other. The app features a chat-like interface which guides the user experience. The app also features daily audio exercises which incorporate strategies to boost mood, alleviate anxiety or depression, and maintain wellness and resilience through periods of grief. Topics include detoxing from an ex, loving yourself as much as you'd like to be loved by another person, and letting go of a future with someone that is no longer in the cards. There's a digital journal to help you track how you are feeling over time and log any activities you do for self-care. While the app requires a subscription to access some features, there are free blog articles available which provide tips and resources for navigating through breakups. The app has also recently expanded to include content for individuals who are experiencing burnout. On the One Mind Cyber Guide app guide, Mend has a score of 2.0 for credibility and 4.39 for user experience. We also have a professional review of Mend by Dr. Scott Bernard, where he provides pros and cons of Mend, as well as recommendations for use. Stay tuned next week for another app review.
Cyber Guide team, thank you so much. Thank you to you, Jill Andrews, and you, Kat Vellos. And viewers, thank you too. If you'd like to see any of the past episodes of One Mind Brainwaves, please check us out at onemind.org/brainwaves. Hope to see you next week for another wonderful episode. Bye, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
You're feeling anxious, afraid, alone.
I haven't been able to see my family or my friends.
Families that struggled to find mental health care before find it even harder now.
I feel a lot of guilt in not being with my family.
Are there solutions? Visit onemind.org, seeking the answers, bringing help to the front lines, accelerating brain health for all. Help us fund new treatments at onemind.org.